everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. For today's video, I'm beyond excited to bring you an up-close and personal, in-depth look at the Ferrari LaFerrari. A huge thanks and shout out to the owner of this car, as well as Foreign Cars Italia Greensboro for making this opportunity possible. For more information about their dealership and current inventory, please feel free to check out their website provided in the description box below. As always, this is going to be a detailed, in-depth review of the LaFerrari. We'll start it up, show the engine, get an exhaust clip, go over the performance data. We'll talk to the owner a little bit later in the video and show you many of the unique aspects throughout the interior as well as exterior. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop on in, start it up, let it run. Like the Enzo, the LaFerrari could be had in a handful of standard colors. This one of course is finished in Rosso Corsa, a Ferrari signature red. While all portions here are color matched, contrasting black portions are available, such as the roof and mirrors, at the buyer's discretion. We'll discuss all of the options and interior appointments later in the video, but featured here is a striking combination of red leather with black accented, along with plenty of Alcantara and glossy carbon fiber. Like others in the current Ferrari lineup, to start the car it's actually a two-step process. First you go ahead and take the key, turn the vehicle's power on, then just depress the brake pedal and hit the red button on the steering wheel to go. The LaFerrari uses electrically powered hydraulic steering, or EPHS, featuring a compact motor pump unit that's connected to a conventional rack and pinion power gear. It works independently, unlike traditional hydraulic steering, which relies on a belt-driven system coupled to the engine. By eliminating those parasitic losses, it improves powertrain efficiency and emissions. The LaFerrari steering is around 30% quicker and more direct than the Enzo's, with an overall ratio of 11.3 to 1, taking less effort to rotate and reducing the need to reposition your hands through the corners. It takes just 1.8 turns to lock and has a turning diameter of 38.4 feet. The unique squared-off 3-spoke carbon fiber and Alcantara steering wheel incorporates all of your primary driving controls, part of Ferrari's human-machine interface approach. This places everything within the driver's immediate reach, from the indicators, wipers, lights, and bumpy road setting to the Manatino drive mode selector in the bottom right. The horn buttons are integrated into the grip bolsters at 10 and 2. In the top of the wheel is an LED light strip that illuminates the proper shifting intervals. As with Ferraris of the past, the Manatino automatically adjusts the transmission shift protocols, adaptive magnetorological dampers, electronic differential, and F1 track stability system. In the highest sport settings, the driver has more control and less innervation from the electronic systems, while it's the opposite for comfort and wet settings. The LaFerrari also features a new 12.3-inch 3-mode reconfigurable digital instrument cluster. It follows similar functionality as a 458, with the right section housing your navigation and entertainment, and the left housing a detailed driver information system. We'll cover that more in depth, including the varying layouts, later in the video. The LaFerrari delivers its power to the rear wheels through a Getrag 7-speed dual-clutch transaxle. Even and odd gears are managed independently, pre-selected using two separate input shafts. This pretty much eliminates the delay between the opening and closing phases of the two clutches and subsequent interruptions in torque to the wheels, leading to extremely rapid gear changes. A similar gearbox is also found in the F12 Berlinetta, featuring shortened ratios compared to other Ferrari models to match the incredible power and torque delivered from the hybrid powertrain. In the slender center console is a sculpted carbon fiber gearbox control bridge suspended in mid-air with 3 buttons. PS, or Partenza Sportivo, engages launch control, R places the car in reverse and brings up a backup camera within the instrument cluster, while Auto allows you to switch between full automatic or manual shifting. Without any column-mounted stalks, it frees up room for the carbon fiber panel shifters that were lengthened specifically for the LaFerrari to improve ergonomics. Integrated within the gearbox is an electronic limited slip differential, resulting in a lighter weight, more compact design. Attached to the rear of the transaxle is an electric motor that sends power directly to the differential through its own gear set rather than being integrated with the DCT, giving the LaFerrari an instant boost of low-end thrust to supplement the V12. To place the car in neutral, you simply pull both of the paddles towards you simultaneously. There's an electronic automatic parking brake in the bottom left-hand corner of the dash. So let's go ahead and flip on the automatic LED headlamps, rear fog lamps, and the hazards. The controls for your power windows are located in the center console, and of course they're fully automatic. So now let's go ahead and check out the exterior. The LaFerrari was first unveiled at the 2013 Geneva Motor Show and represents Ferrari's latest in a line of iconic supercars, beginning with the 288 GTO in 1984, followed by the F40 in 1987, the F50 in 1996, and the Enzo in 2002. Debuting around the launch of the McLaren P1 and Porsche 918 Spider, the LaFerrari is the brand's first production car with a hybrid powertrain, combining an F1-derived kinetic energy recovery system, or KERS, with a modified version of the 6.3-liter V12 used in the FF and F12 Berlinetta. KERS is designed to harness energy from a variety of systems, including brake energy regeneration. Altogether, it created the fastest, quickest, and most powerful production Ferrari to date. LaFerrari means the Ferrari, and while the full name may sound a little silly, it makes sense. The car is a statement for Ferrari, showcasing new technologies that will eventually migrate to other models in the future. It's more powerful than both the P1 and 918 and weighs less, leading to a superior power-to-weight ratio. Worldwide production is limited to just 499 units. All have been spoken for, with around 120 or so destined for the United States. In comparison, the P1 is limited to 375 units, while the 918 is limited to 918 units. To even have the chance to buy a LaFerrari, you had to meet certain requirements. Status or money didn't matter. You basically had to have shown your true patronage for the brand, having owned numerous Ferraris in the past and present, including the aforementioned icons, those special limited edition models. I'm sure the process was a bit more complicated than that, but at the end of the day, it was up to Ferrari to grant you the right to own this car. Well over 1,000 people submitted applications. The LaFerrari is the first road-going Ferrari in quite a while that was designed without the involvement of Pininfarina. Instead, it was all done in-house at Ferrari's styling center in Maranello, Italy. Like the P1 and 918, the LaFerrari structure is primarily made from carbon fiber, including but not limited to the central tub, roof structure, and body panels. Ferrari used a multi-material approach, including 4 different grades of fibers throughout based on weight, application, and strength requirements. Compared to the Enzo's body structure, which weighed around 202 pounds, the LaFerrari's body structure weighs just 176 pounds and is even stronger. It's also the first automobile to use high tensile strength T800 carbon fiber for the roof structure and tub. Ultra-high tensile strength T1000 carbon fiber makes up the sills and doors for greater occupant protection. Other key structural elements use another type of high-strength fiber known as M46J. The terminology isn't that important, but what is important is that it's a lighter, more rigid material. A layer of woven Kevlar is used within the underbody and battery tray behind the seats to protect the electrical systems from damage and road debris. The hybrid system's battery packs are incorporated into the tub as structural members. Compared to the Enzo, the LaFerrari boasts a 27% increase in torsional rigidity and a 22% increase in beam stiffness, all while weighing 20% less and featuring a 1.4-inch lower center of gravity, now at 14.76 inches. It also shrinks in width and height by 1.58 inches or 40 millimeters and 1.18 inches or 30 millimeters respectively. The wheelbase and overall length remain identical to the Enzo. The LaFerrari's lowest point is 1.2 inches lower than the Enzo's lowest point, sending you closer to the ground. The packaging of the powertrain and running gear also reduce the front and rear overhangs. Weight distribution favors the rear more in this case, which Ferrari claims at 59% is more of an ideal balance. All of the major components sit within the wheelbase. All of the work is done in-house by hand, including laying of the carbon fiber sheets into molds before the components are baked in the same autoclaves used for Ferrari's Formula One team. Aerodynamics play the biggest role in the car's design. It's a very fluidic shape with a very low drag coefficient. It features a smaller frontal area with muscular fenders and dedicated air channels to carry air down the body for reduced drag. The shape of the roofline carries air over the car and directs it towards 2 engine air intakes that sit on top of the rear fenders for a ram air effect. Up front, downforce is created thanks to the pronounced splitters that wrap around the fascia and a color-keyed spoiler suspended by a central strut. A large air vent in the hood extracts hot air generated from the radiators. The vent's central flap controls the air, keeping it close to the body while reducing turbulence and subsequent drag, as it meets with the air flowing across the roofline. Intakes at the outer edges of the fascia help cool the brakes. Across the sides, air is extracted from the wheel wells via a pair of vents nestled within the recessed body scallops, reducing lift caused by positive pressure buildup and increasing downforce. That air is then channeled, with the guidance of flared sills and dramatically curved body elements, into a pair of huge intakes ahead of the rear wheels that supply air to an additional pair of radiators. The rear of the LaFerrari is characterized by a number of open sections with black mesh, including the two main sections beneath the rear wing, around the exhaust, under and around the diffuser, and to either side of the glass engine cover. This all provides the necessary ventilation to allow heat to escape as effectively as possible. Especially out back, the styling does have some family ties to the Enzo. To either side, there's LED tail lamps and integrated reverse lights, finished off below by quad exhaust outlets with a variable mode active exhaust system and a Formula 1 inspired rear fog lamp that houses a rear view camera. The LaFerrari features a set of asymmetric 5-spoke forged aluminum wheels measuring 19 by 9.5 inches in front and 20 by 12.5 inches in the rear, fitted to the car with central locking hubs. A matte black finish is optional alongside the standard silver finish. They're wrapped in Pirelli P0 Corsa tires, so if needed, the car can handle inclement weather and wet roads more readily and with greater confidence than if it were equipped with Pirelli's Track Focus Trofeo R tires. Two 65/30 tires can be found in front, while three 45/30s bring up the rear. Compared to the Enzo, which could easily hold over 1 g of lateral acceleration, the LaFerrari's front tires are 20mm or 0.79 inches wider, helping boost that lateral acceleration by 20% while increasing cornering speed. The brakes consist of 4-wheel Brembo carbon ceramics that can bring the car to a stop from 60 miles an hour in a little less than 100 feet. The front discs are larger than the Enzo's and feature a new caliper design with specific pads that promote cooling and more consistent stopping performance. The cross-drilled internally ventilated discs are the same ones used in the 458 Speciale, measuring 15.7 by 1.4 inches in front with 6-piston calipers and 15 by 1.3 inches in the rear with 4-piston calipers. The calipers are offered in a variety of colors. The car also features a regenerative braking system to capture additional energy to charge the batteries. It even provides an additional measure of deceleration along with the active aero to take a bit of load off the brakes. The underbody panels are made from carbon fiber and are as smooth as can be. The carbon fiber chassis provides direct mounting points for the double wishbone front suspension, coil springs, and anti-roll bar. However, the rear multi-link suspension, coil springs, and anti-roll bar mount up to an aluminum subframe, along with the powertrain to improve noise, vibrations, and harshness levels. That whole setup is then joined to the rear of the carbon fiber tub. Adaptive magnetorological dampers are standard, said to give the car a remarkably smooth ride while delivering incredible handling and response based on the driving conditions and mode you have the car set to. The LaFerrari's active aerodynamics further reduces drag while enhancing stability, constantly adjusting between high and low downforce positions based on what the car determines is necessary. The complete system includes a wide guide vane in between 2 flaps underneath the front clip, a flush-mounted spoiler in the tail end, and 2 flaps in the rear diffuser. The rear flaps and spoiler move down for lower drag and up to create downforce. The front flaps also rise when extra downforce is needed to balance the rear. The guide vane opens at higher speeds to direct air away from the front radiator towards a pair of fixed diverters that channel air out from the underbody. The vane closes at low speeds to improve efficiency. When traveling in a straight line at 124 miles an hour or 200 kilometers per hour, the active aero develops a combined 90 kilograms or 198.4 pounds of downforce. When in mid-corner, it develops as much as 360 kilograms or 793.7 pounds of downforce. The active aero can even serve as air brakes while providing an extra measure of cooling for the engine, batteries, gearbox, and brakes. I'll talk about this more when we get to the interior, but behind the power window switches in the center console is a small round button that corresponds to the front suspension lift, so the LaFerrari can more easily clear speed bumps and the like. Overall length is 185.1 inches with a width of 78.4 inches and a height of 43.9 inches. Wheelbase is 104.3 inches with a curb weight around 3,400 pounds. 59% of that weight rides over the rear. The engine can be accessed 2 ways, but for the sake of complexity, I'll show the simpler way. Open up the driver's door and there's a little pull lever to the right of the seat which releases the glass engine cover. Then just lift up on the cover and secure the prop rod. The entire clamshell can also be raised, but that involves removing bolts and taking a lot of care and special precautions when working around the high voltage electrical systems. The LaFerrari's hybrid powertrain borrows a lot of technology and know-how developed from Formula One. The three main components include a longitudinal, mid-mounted, naturally aspirated 6.3-liter V12 engine, a centrally mounted 2.3 kWh lithium-ion battery pack, and an AC permanent magnet synchronous electric drive motor that's mounted at the back of the transaxle. The electrical systems are so compact and integrated within the chassis that they had no impact on the LaFerrari's dimensions when it came to designing the car. In fact, they fit snugly within the same footprint as the Enzo and even help lower the car's center of gravity. The LaFerrari's mission is somewhat different from the other hybrid hypercars, as it's not trying to be green. It has no EV mode and its KERS system develops less power. Yes, it gets a significant boost in fuel economy over the Enzo with about 50% lower emissions, but the sole purpose of introducing this technology, at least in this case, was to supplement the engine, making the car faster by beefing up the low-end torque and allowing the engine to be tuned for a higher peak performance. The battery packs consist of 120 cells assembled into 8 15-cell modules, 4 on either side of the chassis central tunnel. A dedicated water cooling system keeps temperatures in check. The electrical drive motor churns out a total of 120 kilowatts, enough to match 40 traditional car batteries. In performance speak, it's equivalent to 161 horsepower and 199 pound-feet of torque. KERS adds around 140 kilograms or 308 pounds, 60 kilograms or 132.3 pounds alone comes from the battery packs. Despite this, the LaFerrari's curb weight is very comparable to the Enzo. It also weighs less than both the P1 and 918, giving it the best power-to-weight ratio of the three. It helps that the V12 is one of, if not the most power-dense naturally aspirated engines available today. The battery transmits power to the electric motor mounted on the transaxle known as the Hybrid Power Unit, or HPU, developed in collaboration with Magneti Marelli, who also supplies other various electronics in the LaFerrari. Weighing in at 25.7 kilograms or 56.7 pounds, the HPU is essentially the brain of the high KERS system, sending power directly to the differential while harnessing energy from the regenerative brakes to maintain the battery's charge. The secondary electric motor is driven by the engine and replaces a traditional alternator. It primarily generates energy from excess torque, such as when cornering, for additional charge supplementation. It also maintains charge for the conventional 12-volt battery and supplements power from many of the car's other electronics. Unlike the P1 and 918, the HPU is at maximum output at all times, therefore there's no true electric mode for pure EV driving. High KERS keeps the V12's revs high for faster response when exiting a curve, coupled to that low-end torque. The all-aluminum 63-degree V12, internally known as the F140FE, features dual overhead cams, 4 valves per cylinder, direct fuel injection, and dry sump lubrication. One of the biggest differences between this engine and the one that powers the F12 is the carbon fiber intake plenum, which contains continuously variable length inlet ducts, leading to improved volumetric efficiency by varying the lengths at different engine speeds. The intake and exhaust systems have also been tuned specifically for higher output to increase power and maximum revs. The unique 6-into-1 exhaust system is hydroformed from incl, an alloy of nickel containing chromium and iron, promoting high heat tolerances, corrosion resistance, and less weight. The crankshaft has been lightened while the counterwebs were made more aerodynamically efficient to reduce pumping losses. Compression ratio is set at 13.5 to 1, same as the F12, with a higher peak redline of 9,250 RPM. Bore and stroke measure 94 and 75.2 millimeters respectively. By itself, the engine develops 789 brake horsepower at 9,000 RPM and 516 pound-feet of torque, or 700 Newton-meters of torque at 6,750 RPM. The electric motor's torque is available at 0 RPM, supplementing low-end torque. The total system develops around 949 horsepower and 663 pound-feet, or 900 Newton-meters of torque. Ferrari claims the LaFerrari can accelerate to 62 miles an hour in under 3 seconds, 124 miles an hour in under 7 seconds, and 186 miles an hour in 15 seconds, all the way to a top speed of over 218 miles an hour or 350 kilometers per hour. It's able to lap Ferrari's Fiorano circuit in 1 minute 20 seconds, which is a little over 5 seconds quicker than the Enzo. As far as fuel economy, the LaFerrari is rated between 12 miles to a gallon in the city and 16 on the highway. Premium fuel is recommended and held within a 22.7 gallon tank. So Bob, why don't you go ahead and explain the process to us?
Kyle, let me tell you one thing that you may not know is those stanchions back of you are required by the factory not to let people pass them, because this battery is 480 volts and it is lethal. And if you unplug the back of the car here and somebody touches that, that's probably goodbye. So they're not there now, but after you leave, they will put those back so that nobody can get back here.
I did see that.
Because of liability reasons. But anyhow, this is a magnet here, and I'll show you how that fits on this little plug. And this charges the 12-volt battery, just a normal car battery. And this is the big monster battery, which is a lithium battery, as I said, 480 volts. Let me show you how this magnet works.
Okay.
This little thing here will seat itself. When it comes real close, it goes click. There it is, and it seats itself, as I said. Then here's the monster battery. There we go. She's ready to go.
That's pretty cool. So just release it, you put that right there and pull it out.
You just pull the trigger right here, and then everything comes out, and you just pop the little magnetic thing here, and you're ready to start it.
Very cool.
It will not start with the plug-in.
Okay.
So that's a safety feature.
Well, awesome. I appreciate you showing that to us.
Sure.
The lightweight doors open up and out effortlessly with hinges mounted to the A-pillars and roof line. Like the Enzo, the doors incorporate a portion of the roof, making it easier to climb in and out, especially if you're wearing a helmet. Compared to some supercars, the LaFerrari side sills aren't that wide, making step-over height a breeze as much of the sill's girth is built into the doors, which, as we discussed earlier, helped reduce frontal area for improved aerodynamics. Despite the car's performance and track capabilities, the interior is very well appointed, offering all of the modern tech and convenience goodies you can ask for. Notable features include power windows, locks and mirrors, a modern infotainment system with a 3-mode reconfigurable instrument cluster, air conditioning, and more. On the driver's door, there's only 5 controls, including the mirrors, an arrow pad for the driver's information system, which we'll cover later in the video, as well as 3 round buttons pertaining to the boot, fuel cap, and electric charge port releases. The environment is intimate and very driver-focused, with a sparse use of buttons to keep things simple and the driver immersed in the experience. Across the center of the dash are 4 round air vents, connected by a floating strip of carbon fiber that appears to be integrated into the chassis, a very cool detail. Available options mainly pertain to the interior colors and materials, such as black or red upholstery with contrasting accents, and whether you want a combination of leather and Alcantara or full Alcantara. There's no carpeting, only textured rubber mats for added grip. Standard Alcantara touchpoints include the door panels, armrests, upper dash, pillars, and headliner. Of course, the build quality and attention to detail is top-notch with beautiful carbon fiber work. If gloss isn't your thing, matte interior carbon fiber trim is also available. In between the seats, there's a signature limited edition metal plaque affixed to the chassis. The LaFerrari's driving position is one of the most engaging setups I've ever seen, sort of like a middle ground between the Enzo and an F1 single-seater. Set at a 32-degree angle, the seats are molded directly into the carbon fiber tub so there's no bulky mounting hardware or any form of ancillary components. That angle leans you back more than any other current Ferrari model, making it feel like a true race car. To put this into perspective, your feet reside on the same level or plane as your backside. This is a key difference between traditional sports cars where your feet reside below your backside. In full-blown F1 cars, the driver leans back even further so their feet rest above their backside. Since there aren't any form of seating adjustments, Ferrari offers 3 different seat sizes so you're able to pair it with your body type, instead of it being a one-size-fits-all. Having the seats designed in this way is beneficial in a variety of ways, including lowering the car's center of gravity and giving the driver an unfiltered connection to the chassis. No hardware also allows the 2 passengers to sit deeper within the chassis, accompanied by a 2.4-inch lower hip point. You may not think so at first glance, but the seats boast an appreciable amount of comfort, hugging your body in all the right places with great lateral and thigh support. A padded portion of the driver's side of the center console provides a resting place for your leg. On the passenger side of the console, there's a small storage net. The fixed headrest can be embroidered with the prancing horse. Despite the LaFerrari's lower roofline, the seats allow for an additional 30mm or 1.18 inches of headroom over the Enzo to better accommodate racing helmets. If you still require further fine-tuning, the LaFerrari features a manual tilting telescoping steering wheel that extends out further than any other car I've been in, along with an adjustable aluminum pedal box, making all of the essentials well within reach. The pedal box is controlled by a small lever on the front inside of the driver's seat, next to the center console. Pull it and the pedals move towards you automatically. Using the dead pedal, you can tailor positioning more accurately, and when all set, release the handle to secure the pedals. So let's go ahead and see how she sounds. Next, we'll go ahead and shut her up and check out some of the interior features. Unlike some of Ferrari's other models that come with higher-end JBL professional surround sound systems, the track-focused LaFerrari setup is more basic with 2 speakers in each door. It's nice to have, but that engine soundtrack has all the entertainment you need. There is, however, an impressive amount of media options, including standard SiriusXM satellite radio, iPod USB integration, and Bluetooth audio streaming. Hands-free telephone and navigation is also standard. With portions of the dash, doors, and roofline, the windshield surround and A-pillars are also wrapped in Alcantara. Up top, you have a slender padded visor. Up top, there's a carbon fiber rearview mirror with 3 buttons, including the silent start feature, your power locks, and the motion detector for vehicle security. Single zone climate control system off to the right with your temperature, different zones, fan speed, front defrost, recycling, and AC. The carbon fiber portion across the middle of the dash is actually floating. There's a space underneath it. It also houses all of your circular air vents. All of your warning light indicators show up in that digital display off to the right. In the bottom of the dash, beneath the USB port and telemetry stick, there's a 12-volt power outlet, a little bit of storage, a padded armrest, and this beautiful flowing carbon fiber. You can clearly see into the engine bay. There's some illumination up top and your Alcantara headliner. If you're familiar with the instrument cluster and infotainment system of a 458, the LaFerrari setup is going to be instantly familiar. Only like I said earlier, the LaFerrari has a 12.3-inch reconfigurable digital instrument cluster. The standard layout houses your audio, navigation, and telephone to the right, and your driver information system vehicle settings to the left with your central tachometer. The display button on the left-hand side control pad is how you go between the different screen modes. You have this warm-up screen, there's a timing screen tied with the vehicle's telemetry system, as well as a race screen. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do on the track. There's also this expanded tachometer. It shows the current gear, the battery is charged, and a digital speed readout. The telemetry system is pretty cool, routed through this little USB stick that plugs in the bottom of the dash, recording various performance parameters and lap data on the track. It also records video. There's a camera mounted behind the passenger and one in the rearview mirror. So now let's talk about the menus more in depth. On the left-hand side, you can get a snapshot of all the vehicle parameters, including driving modes attached to the Manatino switch, G-forces, ESC auto learning, lap data, and more. To the right, you have your trip computer, while the status screen brings up a digital speed readout and digitalized analog gauges, temperature for the hybrid battery and power unit, a voltometer, oil pressure, oil temperature, and vehicle temperature. Similar to the arrow pad on the left, on the right hand side there's a little rotary wheel that you can tip up, down, left, and right to go between the different menus. The thing that I like about this instrument cluster is even though it's a one-piece digital display, it still looks compartmentalized. Like the 458, the tachometer was separated from the outer digital displays. Everything blends together here and it's more noticeable on the right-hand side portion, allowing for that extra customizability with the various screen modes, the expanded tachometer, and everything. It's a beautiful setup with high-res graphics. It takes just a second to get used to the controls, but it's not very complicated. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and pop the boot and check out what cargo space that you have. You can either do it via the remote fob or by a button on the driver's door. The LaFerrari doesn't have much in the name of cargo space, as the majority of the front compartment is dedicated to the radiators. As we discussed earlier, cool air is taken in up front and the hot air is evacuated out of the large hood vents over the windshield and down the body for downforce. What little space you do have is in a narrow felt-lined compartment behind the radiators, probably 1.5 cubic feet worth of space. Secured by leather straps is a tire repair kit with tools to remove the wheels if necessary. You also have easy access to various fluid reservoirs, including the windshield washers, power steering, and brake fluid. Like the bodywork, all of the covering panels here are carbon fiber. Alright everyone, I'd like to introduce you to Bob. He's the owner of the LaFerrari we've been shooting today. But I wanted to ask Bob just a couple questions. I know you've owned a ton of cars in the past and numerous Ferraris. I mean, we're all pretty familiar with the ordering process and everything about the key models that Ferrari would have liked you to own in the past to basically be qualified to buy the car. What are some of those unique models that you've had?
Let's see, Kyle, the first one I had was the F40, and the owner of the dealership, Steve Barney, at that time, and I went to Italy, had a wonderful time over there, saw my car being made on the production line, actually could touch it.
That's so cool.
And then, of course, it was months later before it was actually delivered here. So that was the first of the supercars, I think is what they call them, that you had to own. And the next one was an Enzo. That was named after Mr. Ferrari. His first name was Enzo, as you know. And I had that car for several years and raced it. Sort of drove it fast, not really raced it.
Did you ever take it on any tracks?
Oh yeah, it was up on Mid-Ohio and Watkins Glen and
that's
and up at Virginia International Raceway, which is just up the road.
I've been there a couple times.
Yeah.
Alright, so everybody asks me this question all the time, and it's like the hardest question for a car enthusiast to answer, I think, because I think there's so many possibilities. But what is your favorite car, or cars?
The 275 GTB4 Ferrari, 1967. It's the sweetest engine of all of the street cars, even including the LaFerrari. There was something of a burble, if you can, blah, 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 that kind of a sound that came out of it. And it was a 4-cam. And I was lucky. I bought that car from the dealer here in Italy. It was here, and he was in Italy. And he wanted $17,000 for it. And I said, what about 16? He said, no, 17's it. So I said, okay. So I spent a ton of money refurbishing the car, and I've always said, I got you, because I sold it about 10 years later for $980,000.
Whoa!
So that's number one. And then the car that I really raced real race, not fender bender racing, but Ferrari club racing.
Right.
Was called a 512S.
Okay.
And that was a series of the world sports car in the 1960s, somewhere in there.
Okay.
And mine was, I believe, a 67, and it had a 5-liter 12-cylinder engine. Mine was a Spider, couple top off, which was just a conversion. They were all coupes, and then for weight control, the factory took the tops off of a few of them.
Right.
And I raced that car, drove it fast, whatever you want to say, for about 12 years. My son drove it, and we went all over the country from Monterey back to Watkins Glen, to Daytona, to Sebring.
I bet that was awesome.
And it was a fun time in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially getting to travel with family and stuff.
That's
too.
right.
Like when I bought my Fairlane out there, my dad and I drove up to Rhode Island for, it was like 15 hours there, 15 hours back, and he did it straight without stopping. that was probably our biggest, or one of our biggest trips we've ever taken together. But there was a lot of memories built up on that trip. So that's really
Then
cool.
I had a 333. Which
Okay.
was a racing car. That car won Daytona 24 hours, not mine,
Yeah.
but one like it. And my son drove that car in many, many spots. I really never drove it. I just didn't fit in it very well.
Yeah.
But that was another one of my favorites.
Well, that's so cool.
The factory says, and I'm sure they're right, there are only 499 of these in the world.
Yeah.
But most of those are in China, Japan, Saudi Arabia, and Europe.
I thought so.
I understand that the factory would never give you this number. I hear there are only 125 in the United States.
Wow.
Or the North American continent, all the way down to Chile. So it's a
Unbelievable.
better. And
It's a special car in general, but it's even more special.
but you know what it is? I tell everybody, it is a work of art.
Yes.
The door there, if you crunch that door, it's $35,000 to repair because it's all carbon fiber made in an autoclave. You just don't pick it up and piece it together. You have to make the whole thing.
Yeah. It's a little bit different from the car. I mean, just even from the Enzo. I mean, the Enzo was a work of art for its time too.
Sure.
This is just a whole another level.
One up.
This is definitely, and it's funny too. You mentioned the category of supercars and stuff. Now now it's like, I don't know if it's an official term, but everybody refers to these as hypercars.
Yeah.
They're like a step above the supercars. And I've even heard of, like, maybe, I don't know if it's Koenigsegg or something, like developing the mega car, where it's like another step above hyper.
I don't know where they're going to go after this.
I don't know
This
either.
to me is the finale.
Yeah. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed the in-depth look at the Ferrari LaFerrari. Be sure to stay tuned next time. There's always a lot more where that came from. Take care, guys.